when you feel in your body that not making a change is worse than any change at all, it's affecting our relationships. We are gaining weight, we're losing weight, we're having back pains, we're having headaches, all kinds of stuff. And we're just bumping the meds or working out or changing our diet because we want to make our body sustain whatever the wrong choice we still have to, or we feel like we have to make, until it's just not possible.
Welcome to The Career Flipper, a weekly podcast featuring career change stories from people all around the world, from all kinds of industries. We talk about how they get from point A to point B and all the twists and turns in between. If you've been thinking about switching careers, consider this your permission slip. I'm Jenny Dempsey, a career flipper myself. After many years in the startup tech world, I got laid off, couldn't find a new job, and stumbled into furniture flipping, taking pieces destined for the trash and giving them a second chance. You can check out my makeovers over on Instagram and TikTok under San Diego Furniture Flipper. I started this podcast because honestly, I felt pretty weird about switching from tech to furniture restoration. But as I've been flipping my own career, I've realized I'm not alone. So many others are going through the same thing, and hearing their stories has been so inspiring and comforting, and it's a reminder that it's never too late to make a change. And I figured if these stories are helping me, maybe they could help someone else too. And that's why I created the Career Flipper, to share these amazing journeys and offer support for anyone thinking about, in the middle of, or may have already made a career flip or 2 or 5 along the way. In today's episode, I get to introduce you to Galina Marcus in San Diego. Funny enough, Galina and I go way back. We know each other from the contact center world when I participated in a webinar for her former company. We lost touch over the years, but thanks to a small world moment involving my neighbor, who happens to be one of her close friends, we reconnected. It's been amazing to see the parallels in our career paths, and chatting with her was such a gift. Galina's story is all about listening to yourself and making those necessary changes, even when it feels scary. She shares how following her passions helped her build a career that aligns with her values, and along the way, she found real fulfillment by connecting with others and creating a supportive community. Her journey is such a great reminder that it's never too late to pivot and try something new, even when you're starting from scratch. Let's get into the episode now. Hello, Galina. Thank you so much for joining on the Career Flipper. This is awesome to have you here. I feel like this is a little bit of a full circle moment.
It is definitely a full circle moment, but we'll get to it. Thanks, Jenny. Thanks for having me on. It's a really a pleasure because, as I will explain a little later, usually I'm on the other side of the table.
Yeah. It is. It's so funny. I was thinking about this the other day. I don't know if you remember this. There was, and I don't even know what year this was, but we were both working in the customer experience tech space, and we met up at a coffee shop in Encinitas. I think it was Coffee Bean, actually. And we were just chatting about how we want to continue these careers in these tech spaces, and flash forward to where we're at now, which again, you'll get into in just a little bit. But tell me a little bit more, or tell the listeners a little bit more about you and where you started your career and where you're at now. And then we'll dive into the full story, because I think this is a very interesting, you have a very unique story.
Yeah, in a nutshell, bye-bye tech. So how do I describe myself? I am a visual artist. I am a marketing professional, which is kind of a full circle story, because I was doing it for 20 years and I'm still doing this, but now it's for myself and for arts community here in San Diego and for my own art as well. I am a content creator, so I have my own podcast in the art scene where I interview creative people from all over the world. By the time this episode is up, I will probably be on way beyond 100 episodes. It will be season 11 or even 12, maybe. I don't know. So, And I am a mom of a wonderful, a handful 2-year-old.
Yes, I love that. I love that. And you're in San Diego and you've really taken your career path and designed it the way that you wanted to. And let's just get into it. Tell your career flip story. Where did you begin and how did you get to where you are today?
Oh my God, where do I begin? So let's begin when I was born.
Let's do it.
Well,
Start there.
yeah, and I think we are very similar. I kind of feel like we're very similar in that regard. We're both visual. We're both creative people, but we find ourselves in a very conventional "quote unquote" career path, right? So I was always drawing. I was always creating, and when it was time for me to choose where I want to go to college, and like because long story short, again, I grew up in Russia, and it's a very different culture over there. And making a living as an artist in Russia is it's hard here, but it's practically a nonsensical over there. Anyway, so I chose something that seemed a compromise, a good compromise. I went to a fashion design school, and then I ended up at the clothing production company, and very quickly realized that like my fantasy was completely broken up because working at the clothing production company is not that fairy tale. It's not a creative work. It's a grueling and it's boring. It was really freaking boring. Oh my God. So after about 3 years doing this, I quit, and I was thinking about what I'm going to be doing next. And then the company I was working for called me back and said, "Hey, do you want to come back and join our marketing department?" Because in my days working in their fashion department, I was very heavily involved in prepping like runway shows and photo shoots for the catalog and working with designers on production of the catalog. I was like, yeah, sure, I would love to. And this is how my marketing career started. That said, I never went to school to learn marketing. Everything I learned was that was the beginning of it. And there was a lot, again, it felt like a creative outlet, but also a conventional career. And there were so many things to learn. I became a very professional generalist marketing. So started from, working with photo shoots and production design and the trade shows, like fancy trade shows, like working with huge design booths at the conventions with some actions going on, hiring models to dance and videographers to film all of that stuff. So that was really, really cool. And I happened to work with a few international companies until I met my then future husband, who happened to be a California boy, and here in San Diego. And he told me right away that there's no freaking way he would live San Diego. So I knew at that point, kind of my career was under huge question. Where do I move? Do I move with my career in Moscow, or do I move with my relationships in San Diego? And ultimately, we decided that we're gonna, move in together. We got married. I moved here, and for a while, that was a bit of a culture shock because I was stuck here while I was waiting on my papers, the work permit and driver license and all of that stuff. Having no friends, having nowhere to go. We live in a very suburban area where like even the shops are not the walking distance. So I had my creative outlets, and I was entertaining myself as much as I could. And eventually I got a job in marketing, and that was that tech company. And this is where we met, right?
Yeah.
And for a while, again, it was fun. But I unfortunately was locked in the, well, I don't want to badmouth anything or anyone, but that was not the right cultural situation for me. And right before the pandemic in 2019, I quit that job with a near nervous breakdown. But by then, I was already showing my art at the local gallery. And I just asked my husband, like, give me a year. Just give me a year and I'll try to figure this out. And I had some friends who were kind of also at the beginning of their art career, and we were planning some art shows at the beginning of 2020. So I was prepping up. I built a little studio in my garage, and it was so fun. It was so nice. And then guess what happened in 2020?
Dun, dun,
So
dun.
literally, we were planning an art event with three different artists at the front yard of the house of our friends. We have friends with a good space where they could host people, and they like hosting and they love supporting artists and stuff. Literally, that event was planned on March 15.
Oh, wow.
2020. So we all know what happened on March 15, 2020.
Yeah.
So that did not happen, but it also did not discourage me. And also at the beginning of pandemic, it was not a time to look for another office job. So I was kind of doing what I was doing, and being a visual artist and creating art in your own little studio in the garage, as fun as it is, it's a very isolating practice. And not being able to go out and talk to people, uh, that was kind of a so I was thinking, what can I do? And this is where I got the idea of doing the podcast of my own, because I desperately I wanted to be a part of that art community. I wanted to talk to other people who are way more advanced in their careers, because I was still at the beginning of this. But how can this is an imposter syndrome story, right? How can I reach out to someone who, at least on their social media, seems to be so fancy, so well known? It's like, hey, I'm a little kind of beginner artist here in San Diego. Can I pick your brain a little bit? Or can you
Yeah.
can you hold my hand and walk me through all the ups and downs of the art career? I felt like I needed to give something back. So podcast became that, like, that's a perfect excuse, right? This is what I can do. I have a background in marketing. I can figure out how to create this content. I can put it out there, promote it. So I can offer you to come and chat with me, and in return, this episode is going to be heard by so many other people.
Yeah.
So this is how it all started. And then, just like yourself, I got addicted to it. So
Good word for it. Yeah.
yeah, it is really addicting, because you know what? It's like a real connection. I've made so many art friends. I have learned so much, and it doesn't matter like the differences in the styles and mediums, and like who is where on their career. Some filmmakers, some artists, some photographers, sculptors, and even musicians. I can relate to every single person, because every single time I listen to the story, I feel like it's my story, and it makes my heart just sing. And it's really warming, and it's really awesome experience. So yeah,
Yeah. Well,
that's
thank you for sharing all of that. And that feeling that you just captured, I've thought about that so many times. I'm like, I leave these interviews and I wish I could bottle that feeling, because I would be a multimillionaire to feel so motivated and inspired, and that anything is possible if you put the time and the belief in yourself. And if you feel that way on a regular basis, doesn't mean you feel happy all the time. It just means that you're doing the hard work, but like it just lights you up in such a unique way. And the fact that you said addicted to it, it's such a good word
oh
for it.
yeah, that's my cocktail of choice. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 100%. I'm like, I want this as my job forever, because how cool is it to give people the platform to share their stories, their journeys that ultimately help someone else. But the biggest thing here, Galina, is that building that community of people that are all in it together, that we're not alone. Because I too felt very isolated when I went from, working in tech in the corporate world to like being I always say like covered in paint and sawdust, literally like paint in my freaking hair, which I'm sure you can relate to.
Absolutely.
And, and I'm just like splinters in my hands and like, it's not pretty, but I just felt like, what am I doing? And like, am I the only one who's done something so weird? And I like put all these, adjectives to it that aren't really applicable anymore because everyone's doing something that is different. And so hearing how you kind of like took the initiative when you were working, in tech, like, first of all, making a big move to a different state is hard, but to a different country is bonkers. And correct me if I'm wrong, and I hope it's okay to bring this up, but you met your husband on LinkedIn, is that right?
Yes, yes,
Yes,
yes,
I
yes. But
remember that.
don't
Yeah.
ask me to tell that story
Yeah, no.
because that's a whole other episode. We don't have time for
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. No, I just wanted to call it out because the connections on LinkedIn are just endless. And no matter, how you meet people, it's fascinating to hear the origin stories. So knowing that you moved from Russia to the United States, making a big change in the suburbs of San Diego, which, yeah, not having places to walk to, and going into this tech culture that wasn't the best fit, but you also didn't necessarily feel that there was a choice. But eventually it got to that point where your body's like, yeah, no, you got to change something. Can you talk, as much as you're comfortable with sharing, a little bit more about kind of how that came to fruition and what that like pivot point was when you're like, yeah, no, this, I have to make a change. It's not good for me. Because I think a lot of people listening are, at least I get messages from people who are like in that place where they're like, I'm so, entered word of like burnt out or frustrated or, bored or whatever it is. But they don't necessarily feel ready to make a change, but sometimes your body will make that decision for you. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I will. And but before that, I just want to echo a little bit something that you said about the community.
Yeah.
So it is amazing how we actually can connect. And like me doing my podcast, talking to creative people, I mean, in the art world, trying to make that community. And then here we are. You were technically not a visual artist. You were doing something else. Your podcast is about something different, but we are still connecting. So it is really amazing how those communities intersect and kind of feed off of each other. And we are one big community, just doesn't matter what we do, right?
Right.
It's
Right.
it's it's just a matter of connection. But answering your question about the pivoting point, as many other people, and I think it's probably something that you hear on your show every single episode. We're all afraid of change. Change,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, understanding now, and also having a second degree, which is in psychology, and working through a lot of different things. And I've been in therapy since I moved here because culture shock is a real thing.
Yeah.
It is a real thing, and it's really difficult to actually admit it. And then you can realize that change is actually good, but in psychology, change is defined as a crisis. So, crisis is always something that lead us to something new, right? The end of something old and the beginning of something new. It's like the ultimate duality of life. Before you create something new, you have to get rid of or destroy the old. And it's always scary, right? Because
Yeah.
what we're scared of uncertainty. What if I will fail? What if this is actually not the thing I want to do? And like, to me, it was a real fear. Like, I'm a person of 1,000 hobbies. And what if I will get tired of this thing? I will put this whole year on working on this project, right? And then I realize that I don't want to do this anymore. And then I will have to start all over again. I'm getting older, and I'm putting all the like financial burden on my husband, who was supporting me during that transitional time. Right? It's not feasible for some people, especially someone who doesn't have that support system. Like
Yeah.
you kind of have to choose your battles. But at some point, when you feel in your body that not making a change is worse than any change at all, and I think that this is this is a very last resort, but I also feel like so many people are actually waiting that long. And depending on how strong we are physically, we're going through sickness, we're going through depression, we're going through, it's affecting our relationships. We're gaining weight, we're losing weight, we're having back pains, we're having headaches, all kinds of stuff. And we're just bumping the meds or working out or changing our diet because we want to make our body sustain whatever the wrong choice we still have to or we feel like we have to make until it's just not possible, right?
Right.
And it's yeah, it depends on how much of a limit your body has.
Yeah.
But it is freaking real. We have to listen to our bodies. When you feel that you're burnt out or if you're having aches that you have never had before and you have no idea where they come from,
Mhm.
it might sound like woo woo, but there are actually researches. We do have that neurological connection when the signals from our brain, when we're not getting enough neurotransmitters that keep us happy and healthy, but we are having the surge of what's the stress hormone? Slipped my mind. That stress hormone is
Cortisol?
keeping us. Huh?
Is cortisol?
Cortisol, that's right.
Mhm.
Yeah. The stress hormone is keeping our body tense.
Mhm.
It's making all our systems work the way they're not supposed to work. They only meant to work in this way in a very short term danger situation or something that you need to kind of gather yourself together, break through something, and then relax. Right? And we're not letting ourselves relax. We're living in this stress mode constantly, and we're not designed to freaking do this all the time.
Yeah.
We're not.
Yeah.
So yeah, not listening to our bodies is really not the smart thing.
Yeah. No, and you're so right. It will come to fruition one way or another because your body just has to continue to survive. And it's like if you're not listening, I think it might have been actually close to when we originally met. It was 2015. I was working in office I was a contact center manager, customer service manager. And it was like a small company, but like 24-person customer service team. And there were so many things leading up to this moment that I could go into in a whole other episode. But there was one day I walked into the office. I just felt I was frustrated and short with people, and I had a panic attack that day. I didn't know what was happening. I hadn't consciously experienced that before. I thought either I needed to go to the hospital, I thought I was going to pass out. Like, it was in front of this whole customer service team that was depending on me to get anger customers their answers, and here I am. I can't handle my stuff standing in front of them. And I had to file, something with HR to talk about, my mental health. Like, it was a whole ordeal. And it was at that moment in time, I felt shame. I felt like, gosh, I'm not good enough. I'm not able to hustle enough. I'm not able to keep my 12-hour days. I'm not able to like help every single person and solve the problem. I took it on myself to be an issue as opposed to listening to my body and thinking, "Yo, Jenny, you got to change things up." Was there ever a point in time where, when you were making that pivot moment, you're like, you didn't necessarily see it? I don't know if that resonates with you at all, but did you take it on yourself? Like, I'm not good enough or
Oh yeah.
capable enough? Or was there a moment where you're like, I just need to listen and my body is right? Like, did that ever come to
Oh
fruition for you?
yeah. Oh yeah. And it's again, it's all about us trying to operate within the systems that we're maybe not designed for, right? So we don't know how to make the right choices in terms of our careers because there's the peer pressure and the family pressure, and the society is built in a way that so we are trying to choose something within ourselves that is kind of fit the bill and then work through this, but maybe it's still not the right thing.
Yeah.
And then we get to the point where we are hard on ourselves for like blaming ourselves for doing that we're not designed to do. Uh, and also like blaming ourselves for not being able to fulfill the duty to help other people, because like just like you said, you feel responsible for everybody who depend on you, right?
Yeah.
So I do believe, though, that we are designed to be able to help other people, because this is how human society survives. But
Right.
it's just doing it the right way will be so much more efficient and
Yeah.
will make everybody so much more happy. So that said, being an artist and a podcaster is not the end of my story. Right now, I am a founder and a CEO of the nonprofit here in San Diego County. It's called San Diego Art Directory. So again, using my marketing skills, my passion for arts, my love for the art community and connection in the art community, and also the knowledge about what's happening in the art scene in San Diego, because I had the podcast and because I got to talk to so many people, I found the way to be able to create, let's say, a new job for myself, but also help the community where I can, and I am design. And then before we started recording, you were asking me, how do I do all of this? I don't know.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't know.
Oh.
I have like 3 jobs now because I still do marketing consulting on the side, because that's the easy thing to pay the bills. But I get to choose my clients I work with. I do my art. I parent a kid, and sometimes I parent my husband too. And I do the podcast, and I run the San Diego directory thing. It's a lot of things to do. I have no idea how,
Yeah. Yeah.
but when I think about this, it doesn't feel like it's the obligation that I didn't sign up for. I signed up for all of this. I wanted all of this to be part of my life. Is it easy? No. I'm freaking stretched thin. But I don't break down the way I felt like I was breaking down at this last office job I had. I am better equipped to navigate this relationships. I'm better equipped to making choices of how I do things and who I work with, right?
Mhm.
And I'm putting all my energy into something I am seriously passionate about, and also having all my experiences, good or bad, but all my experiences and all my skills that I learned along the way. I guess I was meant to become a marketer, to be able to fulfill this duty, right? I mean, in the different time, I might have become, I don't know, an interior designer, because that's
Right.
another passion of mine.
I love that.
How many lives can I have to do all of this, right?
You got endless flips here. And that's such a good point, because all the things that we learned, even in those things that didn't work out, that we didn't necessarily want to do, we learned something from those, and we're able to apply those in anything else that we do. And that's such a crucial theme that I continue to find, no matter what freaking industry someone is in. It's the breadcrumbs that we left from other things that we now have to continue us to follow down this path and use these things. Like, and it's so interesting. To hear how you're juggling the 3 things. I like this resonates so much, because I feel like we're very alike in this. I'm flipping furniture in the garage, I'm hosting the podcast, and I am still doing community engagement and customer experience consulting on the side, as well as career change coaching. So I got like all these irons in the fire, but I'm at the very kind of early stages of my journey, figuring out how to figure this out. In the meantime, the stretch thin, I mean, that is so relatable. I got a pup. Still got to take him for walks. I still got to make sure, that I eat, or like that I go to my hot
Yeah,
yoga class. Like, there's all
yeah,
the little
and make
day
sure
to
that
day.
make sure that your house doesn't fall apart,
Yeah,
right? Like, yeah,
exactly. I gotta sweep this. I got, whatever it is. And
yeah, yeah.
it's like, it's a lot to juggle. But as you just said something that really stood out to me, I would choose this over what I was doing before. And not that what I was doing before was, there were lots of burnt out moments, but there were parts of it that I loved and really enjoyed, because it tapped into my strengths and my skill set that I can now use to leverage what I am doing. And it just fills me with joy. And in a way that I never saw coming. I don't know if that was for you too. Like the unknown, it's now unraveling in front of me. And I'm like, not, it's still scary, obviously. Certain things I'm trying to figure out, but it's not as scary because what was more scary to me was staying in a career that was kind of in a lot of cases, and while wonderful companies I work for, again, don't want to badmouth anything, but there were moments where my soul was completely depleted. And I would much rather choose where I am at now. And it makes me sad thinking that that's all I thought I had available to me. And that is what I was going to settle for. And had I not gotten laid off, and I say this I never would have made the change. Never would have made it. I would have kept getting burnt out, frustrated, just thinking that that's what I had to do.
Yeah, and this is another point that I actually hear a lot on my podcast. It's like the universe will catch up with you. You either wait until your body is just breaking down, or someone is making that choice for you, right? You get laid off, or something happens with, and then you're not necessarily have another career lined up for you, and another company that's waiting for you to just quit your old job and come and do the same thing for them, right?
Right.
I still find that it's really not easy to find a suitable marketing career in San Diego. My husband is a marketing director for the Bar Association, San Diego County Bar Association. He is also kind of looking around the market and understanding that at his seniority level, which is he's way past of what bar needs from their marketing department. He could be much, much higher, but then the limitations that he puts on himself, like I don't want to leave San Diego, and there are only there are only so many senior level positions available, and then you choose like what industry you want to work for and what you don't, and then trying to figure out if the culture with the company will fit you or not. These are all these are all things that have to magically come together to make you happy, and then it's only you think that if they all come together, they will make you happy. What happens in reality is that you get a better, bigger position at the better, bigger company, and then something happens, like you get a new boss, and you don't get along with the new boss, or like the colleagues, or like something is changing with the morale, or a company decides to pivot, or everybody thinks that you are so freaking good that they start loading you with more duties and more responsibilities, because who else but not you can handle all of this in the perfect freaking way, right? Because you're so good, because it's out of our control.
Yeah.
And then sometimes the universe just kicks your ass. You lose a job, and you kind of have to figure out, like, literally listen to yourself, see what's available and where your heart is, and make the choice. Like, is it scary? Yes. You're not that along in that career yet, so you kind of have to start from scratch in your 30s, sometimes 40s. Can you do it? Heck yeah.
I love that. I feel like we could talk for hours, and
Oh yeah.
there's so much also that I would love to hear more about, the San Diego Art Directory and the work that you do and the inspiration behind it. So let's talk about a future episode for sure.
Okay.
In the meantime, where can people find you? How can they see your work? How can they contribute to the Art Directory and learn more about that?
Okay, so people can find me everywhere because I am now everywhere. I have my own art website, which is galinamarcus.com. It's my name, galinamarcus.com. You will see, some blurbs about the classes that I do sometimes, and you will see the new work that I once in a while put up there. That said, I'm a worst marketer when it comes to promoting myself. But then also the podcast that I host is In the Art Scene, and the website is intheartscene.com. You can find me on pretty much all the podcast platforms you're listening to. And San Diego Art Directory.com is the project that I am currently heavily invested in. And the podcast is now a part of the San Diego Art Directory.com. So if you are in San Diego, if you are traveling to San Diego, if you want to know what's happening in our cultural scene, where to go, the theaters, the concerts, you name it, the workshops and classes in art galleries, San Diego Art Directory is the place to go and see all of that. Or if you are an artist and you're looking for the opportunities and resources for myself, San Diego Art Directory is also a place to find all of those things. And the best way is just sign up for the newsletter on the San Diego Art Directory and get the weekly updates of everything that's going on, including the new episodes from my podcast, and eventually, hello from me personally, and maybe some notes about my new work, new art. You can also find me by all those names. You can also find me on Instagram. I have like 3 or 4 different accounts for everything I do. They're all separate.
We'll link to them all in the show notes. Absolutely.
Okay. That will be a long, long show notes.
All the better for it, because people get to see all of the amazing work that you are creating and the community that you're bringing together of artists around the world and showcasing your own talent. I mean, you're an incredible artist. I watch your work and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's just stunning. So thank you for what you're doing and for believing in yourself and for bringing it into the world. I appreciate you. I appreciate you sharing so much on here today. Galina, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, Jenny. And if I can do one more plug, you said that this episode is coming out in November. So if you guys are in November listening to this and you are in San Diego, I am having a wall in the gallery in Carlsbad. It's called North Coastal Art Gallery, right in the heart of Carlsbad Village shopping mall center. So I have a wall there for the month of November and December, so you can come and see and maybe purchase something and support the gallery as well. It's also a nonprofit run by local artists, so that would be nice. And I will be there at least 2 or 3 times. I don't know when yet, but it will be nice to say hello. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so my gosh, I'm going to be there. Yes, I will. We'll have to find a time when you are there, because I would love to go and support.
Oh, you're always welcome in my studio, because it's going to be closer to you.
Yeah.
I'm driving all the way to Carlsbad.
Either way, whatever it takes, I would love to. But thank you so much.
Thank you, Jenny. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of The Career Flipper. Be sure to connect with Galina using the links in the show notes. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with a friend who might need a little inspiration at work. Make sure to subscribe for more flippin' episodes like Galina's every week. And leaving a review might seem small, but it helps the show reach more people who could really use these stories of career change and personal growth. If you're thinking about switching your career into customer service or potentially leveling up your skills so you can work better with customers through your own business, I've got online courses packed with tips from my years in customer experience leadership. Over 14,000 students have taken them, so if you want to check them out, head over to thecareerflipper.com/courses. They're under $50 and less than a couple hours long, and it could be worth it to really help you up-level your dreams and get your business going and get more customers to stay loyal to your brand. What I love most about doing this podcast is knowing that these stories might inspire you. Maybe you've been feeling stuck and you're going to finally make a move toward your dreams because of something you heard. That first step is always the hardest, but it can really lead to something amazing. So thanks again for listening, and I can't wait to share more with you next week. So keep on your path, my friend. What's the best that could happen?